Hi guys, I am Nu-Trix the Synth guy, and today I'm talking about the Subpac. Okay, it's not a synthesizer, it's not an app that runs on iPad, it's not a software that makes any type of music, but I think it's the next best friend to anybody making music. And I'll explain a little bit why. Just to explain a little bit how I got into knowing about Subpac is that some of the teachers at the School of Music Technique where I work have been using this in their own personal studio. We have one producer, Sonny Black, who has one at home, and he often says that he finishes his mix by verifying that the bass is tight using the Subpac, and sometimes he uses it even in mixing stage. And also Dan Smith, audio engineer that is one of our teachers, is explaining that he uses it again in the mix, sometime in the mastering stage. In some cases he uses it with, let's say, the bass player, so the bass player really have a maximum amount of bass without having to have a higher level of bass when he's recording, so it does not interfere with other instrument playing. So it can be used in this case in the recording stage as a monitoring system for the musician, and also it uses it in studio while mixing. We had Subpac coming into school about a month ago, and they did demo it, but they demoed the seating version. So that's the mobile version, the one you can put on your back and like a backpack and move around with it. And I was not able that day to actually sit down and test it out correctly. So I was still wondering how efficient it was. I asked Dan if he could lend it to me for a weekend and test it out, because I'm still wondering, should I have one or not? So I have it right now. I've been testing it since yesterday, and honestly I am happily surprised. I'll explain a little bit how it works. First of all, in the device itself, there's a mechanism that actually moves, and it's very tightly linked to the frequencies that you send to it. So basically you've got an interface or an audio input. You send your signal in the line in, and you have how much volume you want. Basically you do not want to amplify with this box because it will be too much bass, and unless you really want bass heavy stuff, let's say you want a video game. But if you want to do any type of listening of music in a reference state, you want to be at 0 or 12 o'clock if you want, in the middle, or before that. So it means that you have just enough bass to feel it, but not too much to feel like you're breaking your bones. You have the power, and you have a headphone out. So it's a little amp that sends a signal to the amp out. Now this works with a battery, so it's a mobile version. You can move around with it. This also can be connected through Bluetooth to your iPhone or any type of smartphone and your computer if needed. But if you use Bluetooth, of course, it is slower. There's a delay or latency in transmission, so it wouldn't be the right option for live production. Or let's say if you wear this as a DJ in a live set, while you have that latency, that wouldn't be nice. So you would like to have a cable at that stage. Anytime you want this to be real time on stuff that you actually are playing with, you want the cable to be used. So this is the portable version. Actually, there's a different, this is called the M2X, this latest version of the M2, M I guess for mobile. And it's smaller than the S2, which is the one that is for seated. It's made to be attached to a seat in permanency, but it can be moved. And what's cool about the S2, because there's about a $50 difference between the two. So this one is mobile. It has the same pack attached to it. And the difference is that the S2 is wider. But if you would like to have the S2 as a mobile version, they also sell what they call the backpack that you can slide the S2 in and wear it on your back as the same time as it is a backpack. They have the same technology. They have the same box. They have the same technology inside it. The shape is a little bit different because it's for the seat. Now, let's talk about how this works. It actually vibrates very efficiently. What I learned from talking to people is that the version right now of the M2X seems to be at 200 Hertz. That's where the crossover is. So under 200 Hertz, it will vibrate to create very efficiently the information that you get. So it means that if you're playing a note, it will vibrate to the speed of the note. And if you play a very low bass note on a synthesizer, you'll hear the vibration, like the LFO, the shape of the oscillation. You'll feel it in your back and in your bones, and it's really interesting. When you wear it, it takes a couple of songs before you kind of understand, and your brain goes, okay, I get it. And at the same time, it needs to be calibrated. They have on their website some files you can play back and calibrate, but I feel that the best way to calibrate it is to listen to songs you have and you know really well, and decide how much you want to feel the bass, because I think it's a personal taste. Let's say you listen to a song you like to the amount of bass you want to hear or feel, and then you want to mix your own stuff. Well, you know you want to have that same amount of bass. So I would say you first compare it to the song you like, you put it the right volume to the right amount of bass, and then you switch to your own songs, and you play so it feels the same amount of bass. So it's really interesting. It's really hard to do a demo. You know, I'll put it on and I'll show what it is, but you won't be able to feel it. It doesn't make any sound. I mean, outside of you hear the a little bit like when you play a gamepad and it vibrates, or your telephone vibrates. It's a bit of the same sound that you might hear, but honestly it's a lot lower. So it's been controlled a lot to have just the right amount, and it feels interesting. So this is what it looks like. You've got this in your back. Okay, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to send a signal to it. Sorry. And I'm just going to mic it up so you can actually hear how not loud it is. So plug it into the line in, and I'm going to go whatever. Let's try what song is that? Prodigy Breed. Jamiroquai. Supersonic. And that is only the Subpac playing. I have nothing else playing. So the whole bass line you hear is the Subpac. You know that. Beat It by a certain Michael Jackson. Queens of the Stone Age. Go with the flow. It's not just vibration, it's tuned to the note. You feel the bass, you feel the note, you hear the note. That's really what's cool about this. Because I was wondering at one point if this is more efficient for club sound, you know, a lot of bass and a lot of kick, and honestly, if I play this with the TR8, it's really, you feel the kick, you know, you feel the bass. And with the speakers I have here, I can't go really low. I don't think I can actually go under 70 or 80 or even 100 hertz under that because they're too small, so I don't hear when I'm tuning too low. So I use headphones most of the time to actually hear the tuning. But with this, I don't need the headphones. I can send a signal to my speakers from the main out of the mixer, and in parallel I'm sending the headphone out into the Subpac. So when I get the right volume between the two, I've got my speaker up front playing, and I have in the back, my backbone is vibrating to the speed of the same song for the bass. And it's honestly very interesting. I could try to describe it in different ways, but in some of the song, it felt like I was being hit by the kick, you know, because you hear the kick in the front and you feel it in the back. It's like it's going through you. You get a boom, boom. It's really interesting. For rock music where the kick is really tight, that was really cool because it felt like I was being hit by the kick. A little bit like when you go to a live show and you feel the bass. For electronic music, the bass is a lot more longer. It's less tight. Often like the kick is woo. It's feel like you hear the rumble, you feel the rumble. You have that feeling of being in a club or being in a live show where the bass just goes through your bones and you feel it. So this is pretty interesting because it gives you like another dimension to your how you appreciate music. You actually feel it in your body. And I was testing out yesterday up to 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was using my headphones with this. And there was no volume in the house because this is like, you just see, boom, 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 it just vibrates. And my headphones were actually louder than the sound of this. I had the feeling that they was really loud because you hear it loud, well, you hear it to the right volume in your headphones, and then you feel it in your body. So your brain goes, it's loud. Because to be able to feel it, your brain seems to guess that it should be loud enough that it goes through the hair and into your body. And so the brain was always saying, you're listening to loud music. You know, it was kind of, and I was taking out my headphone like, no, it's not loud. You don't even hear it outside. So it's a weird feeling, and it takes a little time for your body to actually accept the fact that it's not loud, but it's feel like it's just surrounding you with bass and music. And some songs that really felt the front to back, you know, speakers at the front, bass at the back, and you feel like you're being kind of pushed by the bass at the back, and at the same time you've got the sound coming in your headphones or speakers, and it's really kind of a surrounding sound. You feel like in the sound. So that was really interesting. I can imagine like different clientele for this, like people who just like to have a lot of bass and feel it, and they don't want to disturb the people around them. You know, just listening to music or playing games easily, you know, because you would feel the bass, the attack, the explosion, all that. So that's pretty interesting. But also in a music production, it's pretty interesting because when you have too much bass, you clearly hear it. You know, you feel that there's too much bass. It's like it's overpowering. And when you have a problem between your kick and your bass note because they're playing at the same time, or they're not in tuned, or they're fighting for the space, you also feel that there's just too many. It's like mud, you know, you hear it. You would hear it on good speakers or in a lot of subs, which I don't have at home. I have small speakers and I don't have a sub. The reason is simple. My room is crap. You know, it's a cube. I'll do another video one day about acoustics of a room, but my space is not meant to do mastering or mixing for the final project. So I often work with headphones, and this is really cool because you can easily hear and feel. I say hear because that's how you react to it. It feels like you're hearing it, but you're actually feeling it. With this, you can actually feel and know that your bass sources are problematic because you have a problem in tuning, or they're too loud, or they're fighting. So you need to find some way to have them coexist. And I was listening to some of the song I did and like, okay, that bass is really tight and that is way too much bass. But I did it with my speakers here and it didn't feel that much. But I can imagine if you play one of the big speakers, you go, whoa, there's just way too much bass. I will probably look into getting an S2 for the seated version, that I can actually buy the backpack and then have the mobile version if needed. because just for being able to actually sit with that with headphones and finalize my mix without the need of a sub. I know a lot of people at home, whether they have their home studios or small space when they create, we might not have the space for a sub, or we might have the space, but the problem is that the sub is too loud for the neighbors. So on top of really feeling the bass, so you can actually do critical listening and decision, it's a plus. And you can actually do that without having a sub. Now, for the price, it's easily the price of a sub. So today, I would say for a small studio owner who wants to build his own space and have a better environment to do critical listening, if you don't have the option of having a sub and having a good space to listen, well, having maybe high-end headphones plus this, I think I can live with that, honestly. There's only one thing I don't like about this. The headphone out on the amplifier is noisy. And soft music, and between songs you would hear shh, the noise floor of this is really too high. I would even listen to Feist music, very soft folk music, and you would hear in the voice just the background noise. So I know that when I talked to Dan and to Sony Black, they both told me that when they do critical listening with this, they will actually send a parallel signal. So they will send a signal from, let's say, their sound card into the Subpac, and another signal in parallel to the headphones. They will match the volume so it sounds the right reference or the presence for the two of them, and they will just play. So you have a high quality sound coming into the headphone, and you have the feeling of the bass at the same time. But going through it is a compromise. It would be okay for just listening to music at high volume, because when the song is playing, you don't hear too much of the background noise if you're not listening to soft music. But if you're listening to soft music, you'll hear the noise floor. So they need, I would say, the next step for this next version would be to have a better version of the amp. And I'm not sure about this. The connector is just at the back here. I'm kind of scared of sitting and pushing on this so I would break it. I would imagine this coming out of the side somewhere, so it doesn't get bent or anything. So I feel that this, not the connector itself, but the location of the connector is kind of awkward just at the back itself. But it works. But, if you have a chance of testing one out, please do so, because it's surprisingly, you have that feeling that you're surrounded by sound, because you've got your music in your head and you've got your body is reacting to it. So it's a totally different experience. So I personally dig it. I like it. And I think I'm going to test it out today and tomorrow. But I think it would actually change the way I create music, because when you feel so clearly the bass, it's going to be more minimal in the way I use the bass, because I would like to really hear and feel the separate notes, let's say, of kicks and bass. So I think that wearing this, I would do different production decisions, because the bass would be very defined, which I don't have right now with the speakers, because I don't go that low, and with the headphones, it's never exactly how I want it. So pretty interesting. So that's it, guys. I hope you like this. I hope it helps you understand what Subpac is about. If you have any question, put it in the comments. If you like what I'm doing, thumb up and share it with your friends. See you soon. Cheers.